Avraham Avinu comes up from Mitzrayim. That's the last thing we had spoken about. He paid off his debts. And then, just one pasuk as an introduction to this next section. Avram tells Lot, why fight? We had spoken about that. Why fight? And on page 58, plus 4 lines from the bottom. So it says, Vayomer Avram el Lot, 4 lines from the bottom. Vayomer Avram el Lot, Al nasihi meriva beini uvenecha, uvein rai uvein roecha. Let there not be a fight between us. Ki anoshim achim anachnu, because we're brothers. Why fight? Nothing like a family feud, right? Nothing like a family feud. So look at Rashi. Rashi says, Ki anoshim achim anachnu. Rashi is on Pasuk Ches, left column, 5 lines from the bottom. He says, Anoshim Achim Krovim, we're relatives. And then Rashi says, Umedrash Agoda, Domin Beklaster Panim. They looked alike. They looked alike. I mean, let's not fight because we look alike. I mean, who cares? That's interesting. We're never told what Avram looked like. We don't. Did he have a beard? He didn't have a beard. Was it a thick beard, a long beard, a white beard? We never tell anything about Avraham Avinu. Once the Gemara says Rabbi Kiva was bald. And the Gemara says Rabbi Kiva was bald. And his son was called, he had a code name. He had a code name, the Kireach, because the Romans were looking for him, the bald one. So they call it, and there's one of the Tanoim, it's called Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Is Rabbi Yeshua the son of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, the son of the bald one. Okay, there it tells us what Rabbi Akiva tells us what Rabbi Yochanan looked like. Never tells us what Avraham Avinu looked like. And it doesn't say anything. And him and Lot looked alike. Okay, so what? So obviously, you know, if the Medrash says that the Medrash isn't just telling us, Medrash isn't telling us for no reason at all. So take a look a little further. Take a look a little further. They're then page 60. Page 60, they separate. Lot goes off and he lives down by the people of Sodom. And the Torah is very uncomplimentary about them. Take a look at 6 lines from the top. The Anshe Sodom Ro'im v'chatoim la'Hashem. The people of Sodom were evil sinners. They weren't just evil, and they weren't just sinners. They were evil sinners, right? So they were really bad. So what is this? Why do we care? Why is the Torah telling us this? What is the point of all this? What's the why? So first of all, the people of Sodom were what do you call it? There are funny midrashim about the people of Sodom. How bad were they? How bad were the people of Sodom? So there's one medrash that says, you've probably heard this, there's a famous medrash that says that, I remember hearing that, now I learned this when I was in 2nd grade. So when you're a little kid, you conjure up all these images and all these pictures. Now, the famous medrash you probably heard, that at the entrance of the city of Sodom, they had a bed. Anybody who wanted to enter the city of Sodom had to get into the bed. So if you were too short, they would stretch you to fit the bed. If you were too tall, they would cut your legs off to fit the bed. You ever hear that medrash? Okay. I want to ask you a question, honestly. If it would have happened once, that's what the medrash says. I mean, how many people were trying to get into Sodom that they're willing to sacrifice their legs or their spine to get stretched in order to get into the city? So I mean, if it did happen once, you know, most people looking at their vacation plans, when they say, well, where should we go? The Bahamas or Sodom? Well, Sodom is nice, except you could lose your legs. You know, maybe let's go to the Bahamas. Why would they even tell us that? So it would seem that's one medrash. Okay, I'll tell you another medrash. The medrash says that in Sodom, if a man caused a woman to miscarry, a man hit a woman and miscarried, so he would say to the husband, "Oh, let me have your wife. I'll get her pregnant again for you." Okay, that's what the medrash says. The medrash says that that if you what do you call it in Sodom, if you hit somebody and you made him bleed, he has to pay you. What are we doing? Talking about the children, a game? What are we doing over here? What is it? So it's clear. This comes straight out of the Gemara. As a matter of fact, the Gemara says Eliezer, Avram's faithful servant Eliezer, once went to Sodom. So he's walking through Sodom, and the guy walked over. The guy hit him, and he started to bleed. He says, "Hey, you owe me money." So he takes Eliezer to court. So when they go to court, the judge says, "Yeah, you owe him money. He made you bleed." He says, "That's the law?" He Said, yeah. So he punched the judge. The judge started, he says, listen, the money I owe him, you owe me money, you pay him. Right? That's what the Medrash says. What are they, idiots over there? What children's stories or people getting their legs chopped off? Okay, so the Medrashim, it may have a literal meaning. It probably has some level of literal meaning. But obviously they're trying to convey an idea of rampant corruption. First of all, Sodom was a very a prosperous area. The Gemara says you planted a vegetable and pulled it up, you found gold underneath. So, meaning that the soil is very rich and it's a very, very prosperous place. And they didn't want people coming to Sodom who were freeloaders. There was a law in Sodom, you're not allowed to feed the poor. You're not allowed to feed the poor. You can't feed the poor in Sodom. So what do? People would give the poor man band, come around asking for money. Said they give him coins, but they write their names on the coins. Then the guy would die of starvation. Everybody would go back and take his coin back. Right? What's going on here? That doesn't make any sense. Why do we talk about it? It almost sounds like fables. Sounds like fables. So the answer is that Sodom were the original capitalists. And we're not interested in having a welfare society. We don't want people coming to town who are going to ruin our prosperity. We have, and it's clear to me that that bed at the entrance of Sodom is some sort of what's it called, the immigrant quotas. So who do we want in Sodom? We don't want people who are too short. I mean, we don't want a bunch of poor people who are going to be a drain on our economy. And we don't want people who are too long. We don't want radicals who have all sorts of ideas of changing. We want people who fit our society well. They fit right into the bed. We want our type of peoples, OTPs. Right? That's what we want in Sodom, and which is why Lot goes and he's welcome with open arms. Well, Lot is a wealthy man now. He's a wealthy man. He can contribute. He doesn't need anything from anybody. That's what's going on. The same thing when it comes to hitting somebody and making him bleed. You ever hear in our society we talk about we even use an expression, blame the victim. Blame the victim. You know, a guy held somebody up. Well, you shouldn't have been walking around with flaunting your money. It's not my fault. Any normal person who sees a guy with a bankroll is going to hold him up. Right? That sort of thing. So it's clear that, you punch somebody, now he's got to pay you. Who you blame? You're blaming the victim. Right? We see that in our society. None of this is new. None of this is new. Same thing when it comes to giving money to the poor people. What, I'm not charitable? We're not charitable? We all gave money to the poor man. Oh, there's a law that you're not allowed to, you can't feed them. Okay, but it doesn't mean we're not charitable. Technicality, the guy died of starvation. You're not allowed to sell him anything. But that's a different law. Don't tell me I wasn't charitable, and so on and so forth. That's what they would, that was the whole society. So these are people, we'll see next week even more. These are people who are evil, they're roim v'chatoim, and they are absolutely morally corrupt, which we'll also see next week, which is where the word sodomy comes from. The word sodomy comes from the people of Sodom. They're morally corrupt. They're financially corrupt. Everything is. They are the worst people in the world. And who goes there? Lot. That's where Lot goes. What's that?
Why? Because the land.
According to Rashi, Lot is attracted very much by the immorality and the prosperity and morality. That is on the underlying. And we'll see later on that Lot impregnates his daughters. This is not a man who was shomer. So at the end of the day, that's the theme of Sodom, and that's what attracts Lot. Now, we'll see. Hold for a few minutes. Now, take a look at the bottom of page 60. The First World War. Vahi bibe Amraphel melech Shinar, Aryoch melech Elosar, Kedar Lomer melech Elam, Vesido melech Goyim. And Rashi tells us this Amraphel, who's the leader of the four kings, is Nimrod. Amraphel is actually Nimrod. And the word Amraphel is an acronym. It stands for Omar Pol. He told Avram, fall into the fire, jump into the fire. Remember when Avram goes into the fire. So Amraphel is Nimrod. And they start a war with 5 kings, including the king of Sodom and the king of Amor. Now look at these guys' names. Asu milchama es Bera melech Sodom. Bera has the word Ra in it. Vez Birsha melech Amor has the word Russia in it. Shin of melech Adma. Shin of stands for he hates his father in heaven. These guys are no Boy Scouts either. Shem Aver melech tzvoim. Shem Aver means he put wings on himself to fight and do battle with God, so to speak. Melech Bela Hitzar, and the king of Tsar. And these people have a fight. They have a 4-on-5. And eventually the 4 defeat the 5. Now take a look, skip down to Pasuk Yud Aleph. Everybody flees, and then in Pasuk Yud Aleph, 6 lines from the bottom, These four kings, Vayikhu es kol reshchush Sodom va'Amorah, they take all of the property of Sodom and Amorah, ves kol ochlam vayelechum. They take all of their food and they go, all their provisions. And what else? Vayikhu es Lot, they capture Lot, ves rechusho, his property, ben Achi Avram, the nephew of Avram, vayelechu, v'hu yoshev b'Sodom, he was dwelling in Sodom. Now, this pasuk right here should trouble you a little bit. They take Lot and all of his property, the nephew of Avram. I mean, weren't you following the story up until this point? Weren't you around for last week's Parsha? Why are we taking a moment for station identification over here? You don't know who Lot is yet? I mean, we don't know. And all of a sudden it tells you who Lot is, the son. Okay, number one. Let's go on. We'll put it all together in a second. Remarkable explanation. Vayova Palit Vayegel Avram. The escape with guy Palit means he escaped. Lot and Palit are very closely related because anytime you escape, Palit means to spit out. Palit means he escaped from the war. Lot was the one who escaped from Sodom, and he escapes from the kings. We'll see the word Palit. Palit means to spew out. So the Palit, how does the fugitive, the guy who escaped from the battle comes, Vayaged Lavram Ivri, and Chazal say this was Og Melech HaBashan, who escaped. V'hu shochen me'elo ne'mamre amar achir Avram Avram. Vayishma Avram, bottom line, Vayishma Avram kinish v'achiv. Avram hears that his brother, Lot, was taken capture, meaning his nephew. Vayorek es chanicha v'yilidei beiso shmona osar u'shlosh me'os vayirdav adon. Avram gets 318 men together and they chase. So look now think what's going on here. You got 4 kings defeat 5 kings in a world war. Lot is captured, who the Chumash, for some mysterious reason, identifies again as Avram's nephew. Then Avram takes 318 men and says, okay, let's chase those 4 kings, boys. And then there's a medrash that says that the 318 men was actually only one, was Eliezer. It's Avram and Eliezer. 2 men against the world. All right? And they go and they chase them and they defeat them. What do you say, Ben?
With dust that turns into arrows.
So the Gemara says, how did they defeat them? They grabbed dust and they threw the dust at them. The dust turned into arrows. The original Gatling gun. It was the original Gatling gun. Remember in the cowboy movies, the cowboy and Indian movies, the Indians come riding in, also you got some guy cranking the Gatling gun, he's mowing down the Indians. Right? So here is, Avram takes the dust and they go, what do you call it? They go chasing after him. And he's throwing this dust that turns into arrows. Okay, that's what the Medrash said. What's going on here? What's going on here, and why does it tell us who they look alike? What's really going on here? So one of the explanations is like this. You see, there's a battle of ideology that takes place between Avram and Nimrod. Idol worship versus monotheism. Your idols versus my God. Who wins round 1? Avram wins round 1. He goes into the fire and comes out. That's very impressive. 1-0 for God. Okay? Now Nimrod looks bad. So what happens? They start a world war. And like all world wars, who's it because of? The Jews. Somehow the Jew is involved. It's all because of the Jews. Somehow the Jews are involved. What do you want from me? Yeah, the Jews are always caught. You got the Russian Revolution. You got the Whites army, the Red Army, and the Jews are in between. The Jews knew no matter who catches them, they're in trouble. Who side you on, the white or the red? You're in trouble. You're in trouble in Germany. You're everywhere you go. What do you want from me? I'm just an accountant. What do you want from me? No, it's all because of you. I once read one of these Jewish anthology, one of these Jewish joke books. You say these three Nazis surround a little Jew. They say, Jew, who's responsible for the war? So he's not stupid. He says, well, the Jews and the bicycle riders. The bicycle riders? Why the bicycle riders? Why the Jews? But no matter one way or another, it's always the Jews. The Jews are involved. Here you have Avraham Avinu, a world war, all because. Now, what's really going on? Now you understand, gentlemen, 2 things. Why does it identify Lot as Avram's nephew? Because that was the whole point of the war. The whole point of the war was eventually to capture Avram's nephew. Do you know why? They looked alike. Isn't that interesting? Oh.
They thought it was Avram?
Oh, who thought it was Avram? Nimrod didn't think it. He knew it wasn't Avram. But no one else in the world knows. And if you go and you've lost round 1 to Avram Avinu, And you could capture Avraham Avinu and put him in a cage and parade him around the world. See, I won round 2. And nobody knows the difference. So the first Avraham, people who could walk out of fires, I'm not interested in having anything to do with. But I'll take his nephew, and then I'll show the world, look, I won round 2. See, I've captured Avraham Avinu. That's why. Why does Avraham get involved in the war? What is it? So they captured Lot. Lot's no good anyway. You're going to live in Sodom. Why does Avraham care about Lot so much all of a sudden? That you're willing to run into a war that makes no sense by natural law that you even have a chance to win? You know what the answer is? There's a potential Chil Hashem here. There could be a desecration of God's name. A desecration of God's name that I can't stand on the side. You take Lot, you capture him, and okay, what can I do? Take 2 men and fight a world war. That's suicide. Oh, 1 second, there's that. That's not what's going on. What's going on is there's a battle of ideology here. And I know that I'm the monotheist, I'm the God believer, and Nimrod is running around now making a Chil Hashem saying he's captured me. That I can't sit with my hand folded, and for a Chil Hashem you gotta risk your life, even if it makes no sense. Which explains why Avraham Avinu picks up dirt and throws it. Because that's the whole point of the war. I want to show you the world is not being run by natural law. The world is being run by God. And I'm a God believer in the same way he saved me from a fire. He could go and save me from the nations and save me from the world war. The entire world war that Avraham Avinu is willing to get involved in, this is all in order to avoid the Chil Hashem. That's why the Torah emphasizes that they look alike, and that's why the Torah emphasizes that he's Avraham's nephew, because this whole thing is a battle of ideology. Okay, that's one of the explanations. Okay. Now, let's go on. You notice the details of the war are very brief, by the way. Avraham chased them, he beats them, they go home. That's it. You know, there are no details of the war, because we don't need that. It doesn't help us. The Torah is not a storybook. The Torah is trying to teach you, impart lessons.
Yeah, the 4 against 5, it was like this whole thing about how 2 of the kingdoms fell into pits of slime.
When they ran away, they fell into pits. Yeah, that was also to show they were fighting out. Apparently, in the old days, you know, when you declared war, it'd say, "Well, meet us at 4 tomorrow out in the plains over there." Then you all come out there with your clubs and everything. So when they were running away, the king of Sodom and Gomorrah, when they were running away, they fell in these slime pits, and eventually they came out. And the commentaries say that was to prove to a skeptical world. You know, the whole world was skeptical about this Avram getting out of the fire business. Oh, sure, he climbed out of the fire. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, I've heard that before. Then when these 2 kings fall into slime pits, which apparently were deep slime pits, and they both made it out, and said, well, if they could get out of slime pits, the whole thing was to confirm the story about the fire. That's what Rashi says. The fact that these 2 could get out of a slime pit, so he could get out of a fire. That's what Rashi says, quoting the Medrash.
Disproving that you
Not disproving it. No, to the contrary. This is to substantiate a skeptical world. The world's skeptical. What, Avraham Avinu really climbed out of a fire? Ah, come on. And the answer is, well, look, even the king of Sodom and Gomorrah, who are not tzaddikim, by any stretch of the imagination, they made it out of slime pits. If they could make it out of a slime pit, so it's not such a stretch that Avraham Avinu could make it out of the fire.
Is getting out of a slime pit supposed to be equally improbable?
Not equally, but it certainly was very improbable, and sometimes in life, one improbable thing helps you to believe something which is even more improbable. The fact that it's improbable doesn't mean that it can't happen. You know, I just read there was an article about these 2 sets of twins who had been separated at birth. They got mixed up at birth. 2 sets of twins in Colombia. So Reuven and Shimon were really brothers, but they got mixed up. So Reuven ended up growing up with Levi, and Shimon ended up growing up with Yehuda. Until they were 24, they finally discovered each other. It's a very improbable story that they even. But I've seen this before. I've seen this that they've done. So I've seen other stories about twins. They're famous. The most famous set of twins are Jim and Jim from Ohio. 2 brothers that were separated, twins that were given up for adoption at birth. They did not meet each other till they were 39 years old. At 39 years old, they were the exact same height. They weighed the exact same amount, like 81.2 kilos, something like that. Which is nothing. I got physical, that doesn't mean anything. Both of them had married a woman. Each one had married a wife, had a wife named Linda. 1 second. That's nothing. They both divorced Linda. Both then married a wife named Betty. They both had a son named James Allen. And they both had a dog named Toy. They never knew each other. It says, one of the weirdest things I've ever read. They both smoked a certain type of cigarette. They both drank a certain type of light beer. And they both had a hobby of building furniture out of miniature furniture pieces, something like that. So I've seen these things. They always talk about nature and nurture, because you always find these weird stories, or even these two brothers in Colombia, these sets of twins in Colombia, where they're famous, two of the brothers who never met each other, yet their favorite sandwich is a salami with mayonnaise, but only on Monday nights. Something weird like that. Some weird story like that. So you're right. It's extremely improbable, but improbable doesn't. So you're right. This isn't as improbable, but the fact that this could happen, so that could happen. That's what Rashi says. The emphasis of the 4 on 5 is to let you know how powerful these 4 was. These 4 were so powerful they even defeated the 5, and none of that caused Avraham Avinu to hesitate to chase after these 4 kings after the war. That for Chil Hashem, there's his nephew has to be rescued, and Avraham goes over and he says, he committed himself originally. He said, no matter where you are, I'll help you out. Avraham goes chasing after them and he rescues them. Read the what do you call? We have to move a little faster, but it just the whole thing. If you put it all together, you see none of it's an accident. Especially the part about who cares that they looked alike. And remember, in the old days there was no. They didn't have a camera on every piece of equipment, and they didn't have email, and they didn't have anything else, and nobody knew what anybody looked like. In Jewish history, you want to hear something ridiculous? In Jewish history, they had a case with the Vilna Gaon. There was a girl who got married, and within a few days after the marriage, the husband left. He just abandoned her. Then about 15 or 20 years later, he showed up in town, claiming that he was the husband. She hasn't seen him. She only lived with him for a few days. Comes back about 15 years later, 10, 15 years later, I'm the husband. So they started asking him questions to identify himself, and they could not determine is he the real husband or not. I seem to know all about the family, all about the history. They couldn't determine whether he's the husband or not. And so they went to the Vilna Gaon and asked the Vilna Gaon what to do. So they gave him a piece of advice. What was the advice? Friday night, he claimed that he's the son-in-law. So the father-in-law went with him. They went to shul Friday night. And as soon as they got to the door to the shul, the father-in-law turned to him and said, okay, where do we sit? He didn't know that. And everybody knows where your father-in-law sits. Your first Shabbos at the house, you know where your father-in-law sits. And because you remember well, because you always want to be as far away from there as possible. But you remember very well. And he walks in, where do we sit? That's how they, but people didn't know. People didn't see each other. People didn't know. They don't identify. So such a thing could happen. Okay, take a look at Perek Tes Zayin. All right, and I'll show you something to black your socks off, gentlemen. Perek Tes Zayin, Pasuk Aleph. 4th line from the top. Sarai Eshes Avram lo yoldalo. Sarai did not have children. She had not borne children for him. V'la shivcha mitzris ushma Hagar. She has an Egyptian maidservant. Her name is Hagar. Vatomer Sarai el Avram. Hine no atzarani Hashem ilaz. Hashem has stopped me from bearing children. Bona el shivchasi, marry my shivcha. Ulai ibana yimena. Perhaps I will be built from her. Vayishma Avram the Kol Sarai. Avram listens to Sarai. What he obeys her. What's going on? Marry the Egyptian Sarai, Hagar, have a child. How's that going to help Sarah? So first of all, there's the plain idea. She doesn't have children, but her husband doesn't have children. If she does a chesed for her husband and at least allows him to have a chance to have children, so then maybe Shem will pay her back and she'll have her own child. Just as a schus. He doesn't have it, I don't have it. Okay, so at least he should have. Then maybe that'll be a schus for me to have. That's number one. Number two, Rav Hirsch explains that what she really wants is, look, we're going to build up something now. I can't provide the physical body. Doesn't mean I can't provide the spiritual nurturing. So she'll provide the physical body. And don't they have that nowadays? What's it called? A surrogate mother? Yeah. A surrogate mother with all the legal and halachic ramifications. You hire somebody to provide for 9 months to provide womb and board, and then after that, and then all the legal fights when they don't want to give up the baby and who it is, even the halachic shiloh, who's the real mother, and it was all very interesting, very intriguing halachic questions over here, which I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. But the what do you call it? So Sarai says, marry her, and then I'll have a child. Okay. So she gets pregnant right away, and the whole thing, she starts looking at Sarah with a certain scorn. Now, if you take a look at Pasuk Daled, Vayavo el Hagar vatahar, she gets pregnant, and you notice the word vatahar Vatahar, she gets pregnant. Pasuk Dalet, it's about 10 lines from the top. Vatahar, what does the word har mean in Hebrew, gentlemen? Mountain. She becomes mountain-like. That's exactly what pregnant. Vatahar, she becomes mountainous. A woman who becomes pregnant. Jiffy pop. She becomes like a mountain. And vatera kiharasa, she saw that she got pregnant. Vatekal gevirta ve'edeha. Her mistress, Sarah, how does that scroll translate it? Oh, very good translation. Was lowered in her esteem. That means Hagar is thinking to herself, I guess this Sarah isn't the tzaddik as she's cracked up to be. She's been living with the man for 90 years and nothing. I lived in with him one night and I'm already pregnant. So maybe she's not the mistress. Now, you'll notice very subtle. The commentaries say, Vatekal gevirta be'edeha. In her eyes, she lost esteem in her eyes, right? So the commentaries say, it was only seen in her eyes. She's a maidservant. But it's only something you can see in the eyes. Sometimes when somebody's gloating, there's this very subtle look. It's very subtle. I'm not being subtle. Like my brother would always say, when I beat my brother at any game, it was always like, you're gloating. I'm not gloating. You're gloating. You're right, I'm gloating. Stop gloating. You're just kind of like, there's just a, So Vatekel Gevir the Bay now, it was only in her eyes. Very subtle. Very subtle. Very subtle. When I played my brother, I used to play Monopoly. By the way, I was always the banker. Right? So he was upset. There were always accusations of financial misappropriations, right? Not which were not unfounded, by the way. No, he didn't like the fact that I took quarterly bonuses, as the banker. So and other such banking habits. But whatever it was, Vatekal Gevirta be'eineha. So you know what Sarai does? Vatomer Sarai el Avraham, Chamasi alecha. I'm upset with you. Anochi nasati shivchasi b'cheikecha. I gave you my maidservant, Vatera ki arasa, va'ekal beina, yishpot Hashem beini uvenecha. May Hashem judge between us. In other words, you davened Avram, you said to Hashem, why don't you're promising me everything, God, but I don't have children. Why didn't you daven for me too? And number one, why don't you stand up for my honor? You see that she's taking me lightly. So what does Sarah do? Vayomer Avram el Sarai, hinei shivchase asila hatov beinach. Do whatever you want to her. Vate'aneha Sarai torments her. She runs away. What does it mean? She torments her? Rashi says she worked her hard. She put her to work hard. But you see, this wasn't just a woman. This wasn't just a woman looking to hurt somebody else. The whole plan falls apart if she doesn't see her as her master. The whole plan is you're the maidservant, you'll have a child, I'm still the master, and I'll be able to imbue him with the proper values. But if you don't see me as the master, you're going to undermine everything I'm doing. So this whole thing is in order to put her back in her place so that this whole plan can work. Otherwise the plan is, well, what's the whole point of the whole thing? The whole thing is that you have to be able to take me as the man. You understand? It's not just a woman who's looking to, who's going to take her frustrations out on her maidservant. So Hagar runs away. She goes out to the desert. I'm just skipping the psukim. The angel comes to her and says, you're going to have a child. Okay? Now, look, 3 lines from the bottom. Get ready for this, gentlemen. You're pregnant. You will get pregnant, and you're going to have a son. V'koras shemo Yishmael. You will name him Ishmael. Ki shama Hashem el onyech. Hashem has heard your suffering. Now that's what the Torah says. Torah says he's called Ishmael because Hashem has heard your suffering. Avraham Avinu, after a child is born, he names him Ishmael without having been told by Hagar what to name him. In Ruach HaKodesh, Avraham Avinu names him Ishmael. And the Medrash says, you know why he's called Ishmael? The Torah says, because Hashem has heard you, Hagar, your suffering. So the Medrash, Pirkei de Rebbe Elazar, says, because in the end of days, his descendants are going to torment the Jewish people. And it's only when the Jewish people call out in prayer, Yishma Kel, Hashem will listen and save us from them. It's only in the end of days that we will be saved from Ishmael, because we'll call out in prayer and Hashem will save us from Ishmael. Okay? Now, there's a prediction made. When the angel comes, gives a prediction about what the nature of this little Ishmael is going to be. And look at the bottom line on the page. V'hu yeh pere Adam. The Art Scroll translated should be a wild ass of a man. Right? I mean, that's what the Art Scroll says. So I'm just reading the Art Scroll. He'll be a wild donkey of a man. Yodo bakol v'yad kolbo. His hand will be on everybody, and everybody's hand will be on him. V'al pnei kol echav yishkon. There's going to be a lot of him. He's going to be taking up lots of space. There are going to be lots of them. Okay, now I want to show you two things that are just remarkable. First, take a look at Rashi. Bottom line of Rashi. Yodo bakol. It's the left column. Bottom line. Yodo bakol. Listim. It's going to be a bandit. The Yad Kolbo, Hakol Sonim Oso. Everybody hates him. Umiz Gorimbo and starts up with him. Now, take a look at Onkelos. This is Onkelos, the translation of Targum Onkelos over here on the inside column. I want you to see what Onkelos says about this right over here, 3 lines from the bottom. Onkelos says like this. What does it mean he will be a para Adam? Says Onkelos, V'hu Yehei Morod Be'enosha. He will be the rebellious one in mankind. Hu yehei tzrich lechola. He's going to need everybody. Vida dechol b'nei anasha yon tzrich le. And all people are going to need him. What does that sound like? Oil? Does it sound a little bit like oil? Isn't that interesting? He's going to need everybody. He's going to need everybody, and everybody's going to need him. He's going to be the rebel among mankind. The rebel among mankind, which Rav Hirsch explains, he does not accept standard societal rules, right? Which is what we're going through right now. The Europeans, the Americans think that deal with them the way any two people deal across the negotiating table. But you see how negotiations begin. Negotiations begin by, let's go negotiate. But first, you have to agree, you're going to give us back all the way to the 67 borders. We're going to make now let's negotiate. Let's have a fair negotiation, which isn't fair. Yeah, that's not how mankind works. I used to have a fair fight with my brother. Starting position for a fair fight, this is true, you could ask him. Starting position for a fair fight, meaning he had a lie on his stomach. I would sit on him with my knees, pinning his shoulders to the ground, and I would start wailing on him. That was a fair fight. And he had to try to throw me off. And by the time he would throw me off, then he'd chase me around, hit me, and I would quit. That was it. And he would call me a chicken and all sorts of names, which were true. And that was their fair fight. That's how Ishmael fights. That's how Ishmael fights. Yeah. Let's negotiate. Okay, first of all, give us back all this, and now let's negotiate. Sorry, buddy, that's not negotiation. No preconditions here. Huye marod ben Asher, he doesn't obey. Now, the Rav Hirsch, the word para adam. Para is very much phonetically related to the Hebrew word free. Para is free. Is a pei reishal. He will be a free man. That means this Bedouin type of society. You don't live in cities as we understand cities. You just kind of wander. It's free. It's all. There's no laws, no structure. But even more than that. In English, what comes first, the adjective or the noun? What comes first in English? The adjective. He's a big man, a good man, a tall man. In Hebrew, what comes first, the adjective or the noun? The noun. He is a Adam Gadol, Adam Yafeh. If you want to say he's a free man in Hebrew, what should you say? Ho, 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 ho. He got it. The coin dropped, right? You should say he's an Adam Pera. He's a man who is free or wild. That's not what it says. It says he's a Pera Adam. That means the noun is he is a wild. What kind of wild? A human wild. But the essence is he is a para. That's what he is. And I mean, it's chilling. It's chilling. All you got to do is look around you. All look around is you see the type of behavior that you see, where everybody says that's not human. I mean, that's not my reaction. It's your reaction because this is not a human being. Human beings don't do this. He looks like a human being. He's got 2 arms, a nose, eyes, in a knife, right? And he looks like a human being, but this is not. He is a para. He is a wild. He's untamed. He's uncontrolled. What kind? Adam, a human one. That means that there's a certain, now obviously not all of them, but like one of the congressmen in America said when they were having a debate on, this was back in the day when with something blew up or something, and they said, not all most Muslims are not terrorists. He said, yes, but most terrorists are Muslims, right? Which means something is rotten in the state of Islam, right? So para Adam here just means this is a man who is, there are no restraints. There are no restraints, and even in our society, in the society that we live in today, that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're experiencing. Yeah.
So does this suggest that the Muslim nation were predisposed to be like this, and the hundreds of thousands, millions of peaceful, innocent Muslims have moved away from that?
You're asking a good question. You see, anytime you generalize or stereotypes are always a result of our experiences. Stereotypes are a result of what people experience. So if I tell you, a couple of guys in black hats with submachine guns are running a drug ring somewhere, would you expect them to be from Kansas City or Italy? Right, you know what I mean? In your own mind, you have clearly defined. If I say to you, well, choose the nation that drinks the most. There's somebody I saw rolling drunk on the street. He was either Irish, Indonesian, or Jewish. So I'm not making any statements. You decide yourself. Your own stereotype. I know a nation that makes cars. All their cars and machinery work really well. They are either Spanish, Italian, or German. Use your own. I have all my equipment in the house is German. When I buy electronic equipment, any electric equipment, all German. Washing machine, anything German. Because I know it's going to work, and it's going to work well for a long time. And if it's Italian, it's going to be missing a wire. I'm going to plug it in, and I'm going to knock out the electricity in the whole city, right? So what's the point? Why play around with it? It doesn't do me anything. The fact that it's cheaper doesn't do me any good. Jews are stereotyped. We are because that's who we are. They're smart. Yeah, Jews are pretty smart. Jews are smart. And Jews are always into money. Yeah, because we're stereotyped that way because we are into money. Every Jew always has a savings account somewhere, right? Guys in the NBA don't necessarily have a savings account. Jews do. And there aren't a lot of Jews playing in the NBA. The stereotypes are not us. The stereotypes are what does. So the Muslims are stereotyped. Doesn't mean not all Muslims are bad and not all Muslims, but there's a certain nature that goes with it. In every country, the commentaries say that countries produce a certain nature. There's actually sources like that. The countries, the different countries, the way they're divided up actually produces a certain nature. Okay, we don't know the parameters because we don't know enough to know about, but in your own life, you know that you have experienced that. You experience certain stereotypes, you expect certain behavior from certain types of people, and so on and so forth. That's what the Torah is telling us over here. That's it. Okay, so tomorrow we'll have to stop, but tomorrow we'll talk about the bris milah. What I'd like to do, gentlemen, is I'd like to start at 12.